God bless you, SVP Network. God bless you also, those that are watching the Stephen Smith Show via the various social media outlets. I pray that you're having a awesome night on tonight. I pray that everything's going well for you. God bless all of my regular listeners. I'm praying that Dr. Charles Champion and Carolyn are watching. My good friend, Miss Julia Smith, out there in Collierville. Miss Yancey and your sister out there in Rossville. Let's see. Of course, my wife Deborah is watching. And all the folks that now it's so many people that tell me that they watch me. I watch you every week and everything. I actually have a. I actually am debating and probably going to start having my first advertisers just to offset some of the things that I'm doing. And then I want to expand on some things to possibly expand times and places and everything. And that should not only rest in my pocketbook. So I am going to solicit that. Also, believe it or not, I know you've seen me on this broadcast speaking on some larger stages. I don't expect any of those honorarium. I spoke at a school recently, and I really did that mostly out of the kindness of my heart. So if you all want to invite me locally, I promise I won't break you. My time, I love interacting, and if the cause is right, I'll do whatever I can to help. God bless each of you on tonight. I think if I were to use a subject I was talking with a guy the other day. I'll call his name. His name is Tim Button. And Tim, I kid him about being from Paducah, Kentucky. Tim's actually from Louisville. And Tim's been here for a while. And I was talking to Tim about some various challenges that had come up a tad bit in the marketplace and some things that I was trying to do. And then he said to me, Tim says, man, do you know your worth? Do you know your worth? I mean, it kind of hit me. And he said, Steve, he said, regardless of your skill set, he said, you study all the time. You read every time. You read. He said, most adults read 4 to 5 books after high school. He said, you do that in a month. Incidentally, I saw an article that most of the Fortune 500 CEOs read about 6 to 7 books a month. And he says, man, all of that time reading, all of that time studying, he said, man, do you know how uncommon you are? Do you know your worth? And those words rang true because somebody else has told me that before, but this ain't all about me. This is a word tonight on SVP, and much like he asked me, I want to ask you on SVP tonight, do you know your worth? Do you know your worth? I just got the feeling that there's people all out here in each audience that people are getting you on the low. Your worth, it's like if you are art, if you are a piece of art, God intended for you to be a masterpiece. And you know, they're selling you like you're one of those painting parties that they do in the backyard that my wife keeps wanting me to look at her painting over and over again. It's that there's a difference. Folks, I know you know every problem that you've had. I know you know that every mistake, you were there. You were at the scene. You were at the problem. You were at the club. You were at probably some place that you were not proud of. And it's amazing sometimes that when we accept a lesser status in life, is that we don't know our own worth. Folks, some of your enemies are more attuned to just how gifted you are. Some of your enemies, if you would listen to the gossip among your enemies, they swear that you had already walked the 3-minute mile and you had climbed Mount Everest and you can leap tall buildings in a single bound. It's amazing how some of our enemies have a better perspective on our particular skill set, our latent abilities, and a modicum of your own greatness. And yet we nullify ourselves because we count ourselves out time and again. We think of all the times we failed and all the times we missed it and how we grew up without a daddy and how that the guys on the street never played foursquare with us and nobody ever picked us on dodgeball and you know, all the things that you got. But folks, I'm telling you, you got to go all in and know what you're worth. You know, folks, it's amazing sometimes how we will accept a lesser status. Folks, if I'm speaking, I think every now and then the Bible says that a prophet is not without honor save in his own country. Sometimes you got to get outside of your normal surroundings. You got to get around people who didn't know that you broke Mr. Johnson's window in the 3rd grade. They didn't know that you flunked in the 7th grade. They didn't know for all the failures you got. And sometimes you got to get out from among those that you know, and you got to find out that you're more gifted than what you think. I'm speaking to you because somebody's feeling melancholy. Somebody's misassessing your worth in the marketplace. Folks, you're around here. You know, I wrote something the other night. I was talking about preachers who are taking pride in being the big preacher on the block when God has called us to nations. Folks, the Bible says that you are fearfully and wondrously made. You know, God said in Deuteronomy that he made you the head and not the tail, above only and never beneath. Child of God, first time tonight, do you know your worth? Folks, it's amazing sometimes that if we, even... I think in the marketplace that so many of those of us of a darker hue are so happy to have a job at times that we rarely get into some situations where we say that we're being underpaid or undervalued. And some people of another race, they walk in the door and they make demands that you never dreamed of. Folks, you never made the demand and you've never gotten the demand because you never asked for it. And then you hear that somebody else walks in the door, well, I want a $10,000 signing bonus. I want to have this and I have that. And they do all of that and you say, here I am. But because sometimes you're not up on how valuable you are. Folks, you're better than what you think if you've done what you've done for 20 to 30 years. I don't care if it's turning the wrench or turning the pliers. I met a guy yesterday, well, I didn't meet him, I already knew him, but he's spraying yards. And he proudly told me, young brother, I've known him since he was a freshman at Lemoyne. You know, we sold him a car years ago, but he's around spraying yards. And he was just taking pride, talking to me and my cousin. He was saying that he has 650 customers. Now, folks, he may be the yard man, and you may look and hold a PhD in high esteem. But if he's charging $40 to do that yard, and he got 650 customers, how many of you all know that he might be doing okay? Child of God, you got to start knowing what your skill set is, what your dominant gift is. And some of us, God has blessed it in multiple arenas. You know, you got a gift here, you got a gift there, you got a gift there. Your grandmama taught you how to do this. Your granddaddy taught you how to fix a car. Folks, all of that is marketable. And that's why I go back in and I'm so hard on what I hear about vocational training. We need vocational training back in the Memphis City school system. Everybody's not meant for a college campus. Everybody doesn't need to isn't looking to get their masters and their bachelors. Some folks want to turn a wrench, and some of them can make a ton of money. I'm speaking to you tonight because I want parity all across